I'm Brian with GreyWolf Towers again. So today's video is going to be a little different than the normal videos that I do. I wanted to give a little introduction to one piece of equipment, and then I'm going to do an unboxing of another item that I purchased. So what makes this different is, one, the item that I'm showing is not a new or even a modern product. It is this Dell system. It is a Dell Dimension back from roughly 2002, and the reason that I'm showing this to you right now is that what I'm going to do is I've asked viewers in both YouTube's community section as well as on Twitter, and they seem to want to see a retro PC made for playing older games. I have a specific game called MechWarrior 3. I don't know if you're familiar with it. If you're not, it's basically giant robots that you control, that you take around, you blow other stuff up. Sometimes you're fighting other mechs, is what they're called, and sometimes you're taking out tanks or even infantry. However, it does not play on Windows 10. There are some hacks and workarounds that you can use to try and get it to work, which sometimes does succeed, but oftentimes, because the modern hardware is so much more advanced than it used to be, you get physics issues, and by physics I mean actual laws of physics, where you'll be walking and you'll hit something and either the tank will go way up in the sky and just hover up there, or you'll bounce around and it just ends up not working correctly. There are limitations that you have to put in place for it to successfully work, things like that. On Windows 7, I don't think anybody tried to get it on Windows 8 because very few people enjoyed Windows 8. And on Windows 10, it does not seem to work from what I've been able to try. So what I want to do is I want to take this Windows XP era machine and I want to install Windows 98 2nd edition onto it and see how that runs, see about getting drivers installed for it, and then take it and install a copy of MechWarrior 3 and see how it plays out and whether it's playable or not. So that will be an upcoming video. I'm not sure exactly when I'll be able to get to that, but I'm hoping within the next 8 or 9 days. Today is the 4th of December, so I will try and get to this before Christmas and have it posted no later than the week after Christmas, but no guarantees, but I will get to it as soon as I can. Now that aside, the main reason for this video today is going to be for this box here. So inside is an item. I know it's been reviewed by others with far more experience than myself, so it's not like a new item that's just been released or anything, but I did want to give some view of it and a little bit of information. So it is a Sega Genesis Mini. I was very pleased to get this. I paid roughly $30 for it. I'm assuming about $30 to $35 if I remember correctly, and that was on Mercari. It is used in good condition. It does play. I have tested it, so but I put it back in the same way that it was when I received it used. The console itself is an old design modernized. So this is the 30th anniversary Sega Genesis. Hard to imagine 30 years ago when I played it that it would end up getting remade after it faded out of existence for a while. It was one of my top 3 or 4 consoles back before 2000. The original Nintendo with Final Fantasy on it was, and Mario 3 were some of my favorite games in the late 80s and early 90s. The Game Boy and various iterations were some of my favorite consoles as well. And then the Genesis, there was a Saturn model that had one game on it that I really enjoyed, but that one game is available on the PS1 or PlayStation 1, which plays on the PlayStation 2 as well, and is still able to be found for, it's a bit pricey. I mean, it's anywhere from $40 $200, depending on whether you get the case and the special feature items and stuff like that. I wish I'd kept my original copy of that game because it would be worth like almost 200 bucks right now, but I wouldn't even sell it, I would keep it. But I was stupid, and back when the PlayStation 2 came out, I traded it in for the credit so that I could get a PlayStation 2, not realizing that it played on the PlayStation 2. But that was a game called Lunar: The Silver Star Story. This, however, has a bunch of other games on it that that I really enjoyed throughout the 90s. So it comes with 42 games installed. They're classics. They're given on the back of it. You've got a list of all the different games, or at least most of them, and they're games like, let's take a couple of them. Altered Beast. That one was a really popular one back in the 90s. Shinobi, which was a ninja game, kind of like Ninja Gaiden. Contra was on both Nintendo and the Genesis and very popular. One of my favorite games is actually on the console by default. It's called Phantasy Star 4. Phantasy Star 2 was okay. I don't remember playing 1 at all, and I don't remember playing 3 more than once or twice. 4 was one of my all-time favorite games. Phantasy Star spelled with a PH. Then there's like all the Sonic games, because that's what the Genesis was known for, was Sonic the Hedgehog. The Phantasy Star game, though, was one of the first RPGs on consoles next to Final Fantasy, and it was one of the more popular ones as well. It just, however, was not as popular as Final Fantasy, which became a PlayStation game, and you got Final Fantasy 7 and 8, 9, X, X2, etc., etc. Honestly, Final Fantasy, the original on the Nintendo, and then Final Fantasy 7 are two of my favorite games on the top 10 list. Right next to Phantasy Star 4, Shadowrun, and not the modern Shadowrun, mind you, the Genesis model of Shadowrun, which was considerably different. And then there were MechWarrior games on the Nintendo, or on the Super Nintendo, the Genesis, and a couple of other consoles, and then the computers. And those were my bread and butter games back in the day. And then on the Game Boy, I'd play games like Tetris and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and open and unbox this package. It is all of the original items. Some of them are in new condition because they were never used. Some of them have been used slightly. But let's take a peek and see what you get inside this package. So first off, you can buy this new still. I don't know if it's necessarily the anniversary edition, but it is the Sega Genesis Mini. It is available at GameStop and I believe Walmart.com and possibly Target. Similar stores like that should have them as well if you're not in the US. I don't know what the availability is. It has 42 games built into it, and it is in essence a modern emulator of the original Genesis to play the games. So inside we have an HDMI cable. It looks like this cable has never been used. If it has been, then it's just an HDMI cable. I don't really have any use of it right now because I don't plan on using it with this, because I have a PS4 hooked up that I don't use at all. And so I'm just going to swap the cable from that to this. So it has the power, which is just a small brick. It says here, let's see. 5 volt, 1 amp. So it's 5 volt. I believe 5 volts, 1 amp is 5 times 1 to equal wattage, which would make it a 5 watt power brick. It uses the older Android style charger from like the S7, S6, and all the standardized phones that had the, was it micro? Is it micro? I think it's micro USB. It's not it's the one that looks kind of like a D. It's not the older one that kind of went like that and was weird shape. That one was, I believe that one was the mini USB, and this is the micro USB. This is what you would get on most consoles and things like that nowadays that are the knockoffs, as opposed to a USB-C, which just recently has become popular and I guess more or less universal now. But it's just a USB charger with a USB cable, and just the, like I said, I think it's the micro USB. Now, it also comes with not only one, but two controllers. And the cool thing about these controllers is that it was modernized to the USB, but is still a 3-button Sega Genesis controller. You'll notice that it only has a start button, no select button like you'd get on like a Nintendo controller or anything like that. It has the D-pad or direction pad, and then 3 buttons, which was unusual at the time because the competitor Nintendo only had an A and B button, whereas Sega had A, B, and C, so you had more options and capabilities with it. And one of these controllers is used, this one here that's already open, and then there's an unused one as well that I got with it. It does come with 2 in the original package for the $50, just so you are aware that is standard. And it labels it on the front. It shows you 2 controllers, so it does have it does state on here somewhere that it has 2 controllers. There it is. 2 wired control pads, USB adapter, mini console, power cable, and an HDMI cable. So, and then this little box is the console, and then you get instructions and things like that. And honestly, nowadays instructions on something like this is kind of second nature, so you don't really need the directions that come with it. The console, however, is considerably smaller than the original. The original was roughly the size of the box, like the whole box that the Mini comes in, was just the console size. Whereas this little guy, about the size of my hand, a little bit bigger than the palm of my hand, is the console. Now, I'm going to tell you there's one negative to this, and then I will go over the other stuff first. So on the console, you have the 2 USB ports on the front for connecting the controllers, so you can play up to 2 players. You have a volume slider for headphones. I don't think it controls in-game volume when you're on the TV, but I also don't see a headphone jack. So it looks like the headphone jack has been filled in by default, so it's never been installed. You have an on-off switch, not a power button, and then you have a reset button. Up top, which is the disappointing part in my opinion, is a smaller than standard sized cartridge slot. However, when you look inside, and I know you can't see it on the video, but I'll just describe it, it's a flat piece of plastic inside. There is no cartridge reading hardware inside, so it does not take the Genesis cartridges, which is disappointing in my opinion, because it only has 42 games with it, but there were hundreds upon hundreds of games released. So for those of you who have an older Genesis or a relative that has an older Genesis, understand this will not play those games. You have to download and install games differently. On the back, you also have an HDMI port, standard full-size HDMI to connect it to your TV, and the power connector is back there. So now, I have tried it, and I will tell you, on my 4K TV, it was obviously not 4K, but it was so, it was just a nostalgic look to it. It was amazing. I loved it. I thought it looked beautiful. The quality was like I remembered it on the older 480i TVs as opposed to 1080p or 4K TVs nowadays. The quality was just as good as I remember it back 30 years ago. Maybe even a little bit nicer because it is HDMI connection, whereas the older connection was either running off of an RF cable connector, like the screw-on connector, or it would run off of or it would run off of AV cables doing the red, yellow, white. And it was a great console back in the day, and I got this because I ended up with some credits on Mercari. I wouldn't have gone and gotten it otherwise. I purchased it because I had some spare credits, and I saw it and I was like, you know what, I can make a video off of it, but whether I make a video off of it or not, I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to take time to spend with my kids with it and let them play with it, and they'll get the nostalgic feel of old video games from the 80s and 90s. And so that's the main reason that I got it, was because I want to share that with my kids, the old school gaming. Now, there is a hack or mod that allows you to connect it using the micro USB, connecting it to a computer, and then going in and running a mod on the kernel of it, and then adding games. I will tell you right now, if I get comments down in the comment section down below and get some likes on this video, I will take the extra step of doing a video showing you how to mod it with the additional games. It's using free software and freely available ROMs, or whatever you want to call them. They're not marked as .rom files. I forget what they're called, but they're some other extension, but it's the same thing as a ROM file for an emulator, because it's all this is a Sega Genesis emulator. But there was, in the one game that I played, or had my son play with me watching, there was no lag, no negative emulation glitches that you see in the standard glitches when you play a ROM-based system. It was awesome. It reminded me exactly how it was back in the 90s, and maybe even a little bit quicker and easier. So if you all want to see a video on me adding games to this, let me know in the comments down below. I will screen record me adding the games and then do a voiceover of me describing what's going on, if you are interested in it, and then I'll add some video like this as an introduction and whatnot, so that it's going. There is also a power LED on it that lights up red to show you that it's on or off, but it is in essence a emulator of a 30-year-old technology. Plays great. It is some of the funnest games of my childhood were played on the original console. And if you would like to see some of it in action, let me know, and I'll see about doing some screen recordings and post those in some stuff. One of my all-time favorite games I will have to add, so if you are interested in the video, I'll show you me adding that game. It is a game called Shadowrun. It is not the same one that you get on the PC from Steam or Epic or whatever. It is the original Sega Genesis model of Shadowrun, which was far better in my opinion than the modern one. The modern one is trying to do a turn-based combat system, whereas this one, what I remember of it was kind of like an overview, where it was kind of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles type look to the arcade game, where you travel around the screen to get different places. It was a bit better quality, don't get me wrong, because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were an 8-bit system. This is a 16-bit system, so it is a better quality. But it was that style of view. And then you had side things where you'd interact with consoles in the game, and you would basically hack systems, and it would have you do different actions that would allow you to either hack into stuff or not hack into stuff, where you'd steal money or take money. And there was also shops that you could go inside of, purchase equipment, so that you could go out and when you got into fights in the local areas, that you had armor or weapons and things like that. And if you'd like, I am more than happy to try and screen record some of that as well, and then show it to you all on a video, or maybe even a live stream if that's of interest to you. I am still trying to get my live streaming capability back. I'm trying to figure out what went wrong with it. Something has gone on and things are not working correctly, but I do plan on getting that up and running soon. In short, this little console is a 16-bit, not a 32-bit, not a 64-bit, but a 16-bit console from the 90s that has been remade into a modern emulator so that you can play it on your TV using HDMI and USB controllers. I do not have a USB controller other than these that I can try to see if they work with it, but if that's something that's of interest to people, let me know in the comments down below and I can see about testing that out as well. It'll probably be a little while, unless somebody wants to send me a controller, it'll probably be a little while before I can afford one, but hopefully after the holidays I'll be able to buy a controller that's USB for PC that hopefully we can test out and see if it works on this. So anyway, that's today's video. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you did, if you enjoyed it or if you found it informational, make sure you hit the like button down below. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them in the comment section down below. I love to get feedback and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that I'm able to. And as always, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, which should be somewhere over in this area here. And that's going to let you get updates on our new videos and when we make comments in our community section. So thank you for watching, everyone. Hope you all have a great day. Happy holidays, everyone. Bye for now.